Okay, how we get there, as Robin says, not the most popular and known approach. So that's topic that I will try to explain how we as a company get there. And first of all, who am I and what I'm doing, which company? I'm a front-end engineer at Zattoo. We are doing live stream TV, and personally, I work in progressive web application and Chromecast project. This is pretty neat way how you can consume live content. So it's could be reached by your browser, and this is basically live content in your browser. So it's free for most of usages. You can try it out. Personally, I can recommend it as a user watcher of some sport occasions like Olympic Games, football matches. But if you're on soap, dramas, you will find it there. Yeah, and it's also synergy with Chromecast application, but we are talking mostly about the web. So, and we are doing that one with a very small team of 2.5 engineers. Of course, other people helping us on other sides, but the core team is very small for such a big project. And in such big project brings a lot of complexity in understanding how it should work, because we have from one side the player, live streams, buffer streams. It's also very hard to, when it goes to this German market, we mostly known product in the Switzerland, but also represented in Germany. And for German laws, we have a lot of edge cases, side effects driven by German law, and only one button has like this schema of appearance there because of legal reasons. So we can show something on program level legally, or cannot show, cannot record or pause. And basically this complexity brings us to many mistakes that we are doing. But as a human being, as developers, we make mistakes. It's kind of okay. Totally okay, I would say. But having no clue that we are doing mistakes is not. And for that one, we are trying to cover ourselves with the robots, with the automation test. And during a couple of years, we covered our code base with a lot of approaches. So starting from the linting of our JavaScript in ESLint, covering our style rules in the style lint. We use unit tests to cover our main business logic, mostly with Jest, not using snapshots or something more integration based, but to be sure that our business logic stays. And as I said, we are 2.5 men. There is not much time to write it down. We use static tests for measure our size regression. So for example, like a library that we adopted could blow up because we somehow busted tree shaking. That's also important to measure, especially for application that drains a lot of memory. We have third-party service for our translations, so we need to be sure the translation that we are fetching from them are actually exist. So we write in some stuff on Node.js. We adopted end-to-end testing with Cypress and doing user-based scenarios with real clicks. And recently we also adopted visual testing with Cypress. It's just image snapshot. It's when you're comparing regressions, visual regressions. So for example, if the button was orange and became a little bit less orange, we will catch that. It was another talk, so I'm not going deep into it, but what we don't catch, it's when we provide, for example, wrong params into the function. So function expects one input, we provide another one. Or non-existent method will be called. None of these tests will save us from that. You might disagree, but wait for it. Or some value method with another. So for example, you're expecting some time format in seconds and it will get to you to the milliseconds. No one will tell you about that unless you have a 100% coverage, for example, with unit test. And when we came to this issue, which was happened on the very end in the user base when the application was actually crashed, here is a snapshot from the Sentry error tracking, which said that we're trying to get ID function which wasn't never defined, and basically application crashed for this user. Good that we know it, bad that we know it on the very end. So what was the idea how to deal with these issues? So we obviously came up, let's cover everything with unit test. Yeah, and quickly understand this is not manageable because you need to write unit test. To cover something, you need to write a lot of stuff, and this is not something that we wanted. We wanted something that gave us for free, so we can use, do not write any test, but use some analysis that will point us to the errors. So obviously we came up to the type check, static typing. So wrong types shall not pass if you will apply it. And when we were discussing this one, like a stepping into the static typing is a bit harder than the writing unit tests that go and apply end-to-end testing or anything else. The tests, other tests that I showed to you, not forces change your developer behavior, but the static typing, it does. You are facing new, more complex and verbose language, mostly. You lose your speed and dynamic freedom, like deliver stuff very quickly. And there is a big learning curve, but let's talk about it a little bit later. And this is a very nice image to represent the difference. So you can do something really fast, but no clue what's happening there, or deliver something less faster, but spend some time, but deliver more robust solution. So there is trade-offs. Sorry. But we decided to give it a try. And to give a try, we need to investigate what was on the market, and we check what's available options was for us. We started this like more than a year ago, search or two, and obviously came up with prop types as the first solution because it was shipped at back that time with the React. It was built in. It was really easy to describe the types. So what's a pros? It's easy to use. It's built in. Now it's standalone package. There is no specific syntax needed. It's already in the JS6. But what's the minuses? So validation happens in runtime. This is not something that you will expect to see probably, or is it's a bit too late to see it, or it's too destructive. If something happens and crashes you need to always check it out. IDE support at the time was not that good. Maybe now it's better, but still. It's hardly removable from your code. There is some plugins that can do it, but we get some problems trying to extract it. And it covers only your React components, and I hope you're not writing business logic in React components. So if you're writing the pure functions, that's not going to help you. Then we came up to the flow. That time was a good candidate. We almost convinced it to use it. It was easy to integrate. It was perfect static checking. It was even autocomplete for your code. Facebook support. So this is something that you are, and most of the React community was learned to before TypeScript. But it's dead now, obviously. Even the Facebook project like Jest are migrated their code bases from Flow to TypeScript. And I believe it's connected to poor coverage of third-party libraries, which TypeScript is much more greater. And here comes the TypeScript, obviously. That's the winner of this day. It's obviously great. It's easy to implement. It has a static checking, autocomplete. What's more important is a superset of JavaScript. Flow is not, so you can just, Flow is sort of. So you can just put your JavaScript code, run it as a TypeScript, all will work. It has a great editor support. It has a great compiler. I personally think it's greater than Babel. You can actually run and compile your code not with Babel but with TypeScript. And it has a great editor support. Recently, WebStorm added more and more features into it. And Visual Studio Code is actually using TypeScript as an engine to actually process and make it free from your code and do analyze on it. And obviously Microsoft support. It's controversial, but these days it's kind of great. What the minuses of it? For sure is the flow is other things. It needs to be compiled. maybe it's not overhead for you, especially if you're using Babel, you're used to it, you used to compile your code. But if you're free for some reason from all browsers, you can just use it directly and not wait for compiling stage. With TypeScript, it's impossible. It takes some time. And the learning curve. So for most of the JavaScript community is fine, but it's a bit hard to educate new people or junior developers. And there is version 1.8. This is like a history tip when in TypeScript not everything was great. So a couple years ago when ECMAScript was rapidly evolving, the TypeScript was struggling, was outdated, and the person who was using TypeScript was actually stuck with the TypeScript possibilities, while ECMAScript gave us ES 2015 with a lot of new features, and the TypeScript only after a year or so just catch up with it. Now support is obviously greater, but still no one saves you from the situation happen again, except Microsoft willing. Then the next one, the reason. I don't know much about reason. That you can ask Robin probably. But from what I read, it has a better solid type system, the same features like auto-completion, feature syntax, has very good documentation, and it has a future syntax of JavaScript, while of TypeScript mostly in the edge with the ECMAScript. The reason is kind of have more features, but again, it has some learning curve, even greater than the TypeScript. It needs to be compiled, and it's entirely new language that you need to learn to write this stuff. Yeah, in general, all of them looks nice, but do you remember CoffeeScript? Yeah, how many of you were using it? How many of you are still using it? Oh, you lucky bastard. We still have a project that we are trying to migrate from it. And it's a real pain for us because we have new developers that even don't know what is CoffeeScript, and explaining it to them and trying to educate them in that language doesn't make any sense. So yeah, so basically it looked to us at that time, and now like a mafia, you can get into it but not get out. And that's why we decided to quit and not to adopt everything. Fortunately for us, we didn't have much time, and this was my driver why we not adopted Flow. So, but we still holding this idea that we want to have a type analysis, and most of our code was already covered by JSDoc. So in general, it was looking like some function that has input output. We had like some obvious, sometimes really obvious explanation what it's doing. It takes a string, it returns a string, and most of our code was covered by that. To whom don't know what is JSDoc, it's really primal thing. It was by wiki definition it's markup language. I don't know why, but it's a language to annotate JavaScript. It was released together with JavaScript 20 years ago. It's so old, doesn't have a logo. It's so old, so its site is documentation of it 3 months ago was down and no one noticed it. Yeah. Now it's up. It's not evolved much, but there is a reason behind this one. It's so good, it not need to be evolved. It's just describing the main patterns, the main types, and that's it. With 2015 update, we received classes and other stuff, and it's just back again, not evolving, and the updates are pretty outdated now. But yeah, still, even if you are just using it, it has wide support in the IDE. It's like a support of JavaScript mostly. So even if you define this one, IDE, for example, WebStorm will give you a hint that somewhere in other file, if you will use this method, it will give a hint that it's expecting a string, and maybe some warning if you will provide something else. Yeah, but we don't want hints. We want failures. We want our code fail not to be delivered if you pass in wrong type. What would be great if we will like pass in Boolean value and directly receiving an error? That would be super nice. That's what TypeScript and other languages do. And we ask it ourselves, is it possible or not? Can we validate our JSDoc? And basically, one of my colleagues came up and said, like, what if we will run the TypeScript on top of everything what we got? It's a superset. We'll just place in our code in the TypeScript, not saying that it's a TypeScript, but just run and trying to compile TypeScript. What's happening in the end? This is what's happening in the end. TypeScript will fail. If you have an error type message, it will fail. It will find inconsistency between JSDoc and what you provide. It will reference you directly into this string. It could be run in the CI. It's supported by any IDE. So they actually, especially with Visual Studio Code, Visual Code now, yeah, because it's already compiled with TypeScript, and it will get you an exact error. So this was mind-blowing for us, and we started to embrace it. Yeah, that's basically how. What the hell? Why? Because TypeScript officially supports JSDoc. Hopefully for us, as someone who adopted JSDoc, guys from Microsoft architecturally placed JSDoc declaration as a part, as a source of compiled tree. So they officially support all of these basic params and give you even more on top of it. So for example, you can integrate your type definition in DTS, and you can import them in JSDoc. So you can actually describe everything in TypeScript alongside and reuse it within your JavaScript as reference. You can even do crazy stuff like import on that. But I'm not going to show you. I will more, if you will have a time, I will show you demo case of most used things in our project. And basically, obviously, you can use it in CI. This is example, you probably don't see it, but it's example from GitHub Actions, and we have a job there, our head job. We've shifted to the Travis back because GitHub Actions are not good. And we had a job of test types, and this is basically real pull request, which has some error, and we traced it. It was forbidden, and afterwards it was fixed, and we didn't have any error there afterwards. So we are kind of, after covering the whole project, was totally type saved. And basically we came to solution that we are started using JSDoc with TypeScript. And basically for us it has all advantages of TypeScript, except it's JavaScript. And yeah, that's it. JavaScript and TypeScript all together. What the minuses of this approach? Not everything is supported. There is some constructions, specifically if you go to the complex entities, complex type declarations, it's a bit hard to rewrite errors, describe everything with this approach. But the most of the stuff, like hooks, like sorry, I need to be prepared for it. My daughter calling. Where was so not everything is supported. The complex entities won't be able to describe, but mostly for us, we don't write complex entities, and our code is pretty simple and straightforward. So we kind of covered like a 90% of code base. And what is great minuses, but it's also applied to any language that you can choose. It's you're limited by TS limitations. So to compile this code, you need to be compilable with TypeScript. For example, optional chaining operator that come into JavaScript, now it's in the third stage. It's already supported by Bubble. You can use it with Bubble, but it's not yet supported with TypeScript. It's coming only in version 3.7 in this November, hopefully. So we, at the moment, cannot use optional chaining even with Babel, unless we say that we ignore all places where we use it. But what's great with this approach, you can ignore it and just write the JavaScript as you were before. So yeah. And now, do we still have time? Good. I will try to do quick. I set up some demo for you, and this is reachable via GitHub repo. And sorry. Yeah, sure. And what's that? Where am I? Okay, I'm here. How to enter presentation mode? Do you see it? Good. So that's basically create React application that are just a little bit modified and give some hints and examples how it works. And I'm using Web Chromecast. It's better work with Visual Code, but I'm personally like this editor more. So what do you need to start with this approach? Basically, you need install TypeScript for sure. And in dependencies, you will see it. So maybe I can do it even like that. Oh, cool. So this is TypeScript. And if you want to validate third-party libraries, that basically you need React types or any other support of third-party libraries. So it could validate also React as well. And of course, if you're familiar with TypeScript, you need tsconfig. It's a pretty big one. I just copied from our project. Not everything should be there, but what most important lines here, what gives you possibility to run TypeScript on top of JSDoc is these two files. One is allow JavaScript, which allows JavaScript in your TypeScript, and another one check.js, which will basically check this JavaScript with TypeScript. And that's basically it. All the rest are one-to-one what you will use in the TypeScript if you will use TypeScript project. So it has includes, excludes. I'm basically have include of source directory. And in source directory, I prepare some example of the pure functions. And maybe I can quickly even type it. Or no, it's too slow. Okay, let's do it like that. I will just explain what it's doing, and we'll get rid of anything else to not distract you. So this is the function. If you can read it, what does it do? It just takes one value and returns you a string of it. How to describe it with JSDoc? This is not necessary. It's pretty obvious, but you need to describe input, which is param, which should be a number, and returns a string. So what will happen if you will try return not a string? Let's take that and return it as is. You will get an error. If you will run the CLI, test command contains only TSC. Did I save it? Okay, I saved it now. You will get an error, and it will reference you to the exact place where it happened. I can even maybe drill down it and land directly in this place with my IDE. So what's happening if you will provide the wrong value? So I will use convert numbers to string function, and we'll try to pass or not pass anything. If I'm not passing anything, it will say it expected one argument but got 0. And if I will provide a string, I will get an error. And I'm aware about this error. It really helps to write the code, not just to validate the code. You understand what other methods are wanted from you. You have time completion, and it basically have a hints in all of IDs. Basically the same functionality which TypeScript gives to you. Okay, a little bit more complex things because it shouldn't convince you to use it. What if I would like to pass some more complex data, not a string, but something that you're often should do if you provide more than 3 params or more than 4 to not have a line of the this arity of 3 or 4, but just provide it as an object. And can you describe this object with TypeScript or with JSDoc? Certainly you can, and this is can be a little bit more verbose, but you can define the object type def, this type of object, which you will say it's mixed data, and you can provide what you will expect. So I will expect 3 props. One is name, one is age, one is string, one is number, and the array of the fruits. So that's basically what I wrote here. If I will call it, I will provide the name as a string, age as a number, and fruits as an array of the strings. You can also specify the optional parameters. So if you won't provide the name, nothing will happen because it's mark it as optional. If I will unmark it as optional, it should blame on it and should tell you what's happening. So property name is missing, obviously. It could also validate the subarray. So if I will provide the number expectation, it will send me that banana is not a number. And yeah, but that kind of syntax bit ugly, and you have a choice of how to write such things. So for example, if I will remove it, mixed data won't exist anymore, but I can do it in the DTS files. So this is DTS file. This is something that you wrote in TypeScript regularly. And you can define the interface there. So for example, you can define the fruits there and define the mixed data there. So the mixed data contains name, which is string, which we will see before, age as a number, fruits as another interface. And here I do a little bit other expectation. I'm expecting not an array, not a list, but rather a collection of fruits. And I'm exporting this everything into the global namespace, jQuery wise within the dollar. And if I will point to the mixed data now from it, it will also give me an error. It will say that it's not expected. TypeScript is not assignable to type of fruits. What is type of fruits? This is type of fruits. It should expect name, calories. So let's probably fix it. No mango today, but rather collection of 1 banana. With the name banana. And I don't remember what was before. Calories, yes. Oh, it's even give me a hint. You give me a hint, this give me a hint. I'm totally covered. And calories is probably number, like a 50. Yeah, something is missing. What?
Name is not optional. No, name is not optional. The name of the whole object, age and name. On the root level, yeah. Age and name, you have both. You don't have name.
Top level.
Yeah, there.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it says name.
Ah, I confused it myself, sorry. Now we are fine. Okay, you're better figure out this than me. Okay, and since we're on the React meetup, you can ask, what the hell, where is React? And here's React. Just 1 minute. So basically, I prepared another component that is image. And obviously, when you do image, for accessibility wise, you are interested in that this image contains all required properties like a source, like an alt, and the class name is optional, which I define it here. So how it looks like, this is component and type declaration, which says type, referencing React, and React has built-in types that I imported before, and it has a function component that takes property, and property is an object. This described attributes. So if I won't provide the alt into it, it should fail, hopefully. And this is a really common mistake. And it could save it from it. So basically, alt is not declared here. So you can mix it, you can embrace it, you can do more complex things we are currently looking into solution how to do this magic with hooks and describe the magic with hooks. But mostly all the stuff that we are having in the project, which contains almost 5K models, it's a really big project, is mostly covered without much effort, I would say.
Quick question. Can you import the JSDoc annotations?
What is
So
JSDoc annotation?
If you go to anywhere you did JSDoc annotation, like this there, the documentation, can you import that so I don't use TypeScript at all? Can you open one of those files? Yeah,
Like
so
that?
like line number 1, 2, 4. Can I keep it in another file and then import it?
Yes. Surprisingly, yes. With import declaration in the TypeScript, I can briefly show you how it's done. It's really ugly, but it's something like that. Even IDE don't want to do it. So it's pass to file, and then you import it as a mixed data, and then reuse it. I wouldn't recommend it. Better use the global namespaces. It's not that ugly, but if you're strict to the having, not polluting the global namespaces and have direct imports, that could be finding. Yeah, and that's basically all that I wanted to show you. Thank you.